All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations Legacy Point Blank with Peacemaker. And yeah, taking a look at another one of the Legacy Wave 3 Deluxes. This was probably the figure in Wave 3 that I was least excited about overall, and I'd still probably say he's my least favorite. He's not bad. There's like a couple decisions that were made with him that I'm not overly fond of, but for the most part, I'd say he's a fairly solid figure. He looks pretty good in his car mode here. Definitely looks pretty accurate to the original Point Blank alt mode. A nice sort of futuristic car there. Feels very solid. Rolls nicely. Don't have it quite lined up there. Yeah, it rolls pretty nicely there. I like that they painted the inside of the wheels there to give him the blue wheels. I think it works pretty well. He does come with Peacemaker here, who is actually, like, he's not just like an added accessory. He's like part of the same tooling as the figure itself. So as a result of that being worked into a deluxe budget, he is fairly simple. Like, he's just another one of these kind of, pack in 3-part target masters where it's just like the one part is the upper body and the legs and then the gun, and that's it. There's no real articulation unless you count like him being able to bend at the waist a little bit. I guess you could have him sit down, but then not really, because he's got a big gun attached to the back of his legs. So he's fairly simple. I'd say he looks fairly good, but not overall that exciting. Now, if you want to store him in this mode, to transform into his little gun mode, you just fold him in half and then flip the gun over like that. And then he's got a few little tabs on the back of his sculpted arms here. And then there's a few slots on what will be Point Blank's knees in robot mode. So you can just tab him in there like that. And, I think that works fairly well. Usually I'm not a huge fan of them just like pegging guns to the top of the vehicle modes, but, he's kind of more of a Cybertronian car, and then this is kind of how they were for the original Target Masters as well. And I don't think it actually works that bad. Kind of helps hide that gap between his knees there. So, I think that works fairly well for Point Blank here. In terms of size comparisons in this mode, for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see, pretty average size deluxe car there, nothing too crazy. And then here he is with the only other Autobot Target Master that I have, with Siege Crosshairs. And yeah, the Autobot Target Masters don't really get a ton of love, honestly. So it's nice to see that we're actually getting a new dedicated figure of Point Blank. Hopefully we'll get a new Sure Shot eventually. That would be great to round out the trio of them. And then honestly, if we get a new Sure Shot, I kind of want a new Crosshairs too, because like, this figure is fine for what it is, but it doesn't really capture the whole spirit of the original Crosshairs, since it is just a slight remold of the Siege Ironhide and Ratchet mold. So yeah, and it doesn't come with a Target Master. It just comes with the big, Siege Ironhide weapon. So it'd be nice to have a version of him that actually comes with a Target Master. I know that there is like a version of his Target Master. I think it's, I can't remember his one's name, but I think it showed up in that like 3-pack in the Netflix series with like another repaint of Siege Megatron that came with 2 Target Masters, one of which was kind of like his original one. So, I'm not going to buy another version of Siege Megatron just to get him a Target Master, but it'd be nice to get a new version of Crosshairs that actually comes with one. But that's neither here nor there for Point Blank's review here. Point Blank and Peacemaker, I always end up accidentally swapping their names. But yeah, for transformation, obviously we can just take off Peacemaker for now. First thing you want to do, his transformation is fairly simple, but it has some sort of like deceptively annoying parts, just in terms of like, usually just at the beginning here, kind of moving some of the parts past each other. Like, you have to open the windshield here, and there's no like interior or anything, so it's not like you could have your Target Master sit in there or anything, but this piece opens a lot easier when this is not in the way, which you can't do till later in the transformation anyway. So it feels a little bit annoying and kind of scary to bend this piece up like that, just because it is clear plastic, and I kind of do worry about it like cracking, but I haven't seen any signs of it yet, fortunately. But you just want to bend that up so you can take these little pieces, which are going to be his kind of robot mode toes, and fold them up just like that. And then you want to unfold the legs here. You want to take these little side panels and just kind of fold them down to get them out of the way and make it a little bit easier to move the legs past them. But you want to unfold the legs here which on one side is pretty easy, on the other side can be kind of a pain, because they do kind of have like a tab slot connection with the knee when they fold up like that. So sometimes it can be a little bit annoying. Almost ripped his toe off there. Come on, there we go. Just unfold his legs like that. You can clip this back into place and then rotate them around at the waist. Take these side panels, rotate them around on the ball joint, and then just fold them onto the side here. They don't tab in or anything, but they're such small pieces that it hardly matters. And then for the front section of the car here, you want to unfold it just like this. And then it's kind of like a weird series of motions here, mostly when you're going back into car mode, but you basically want to unfold this section and bring it around just like this, and then fold it back this way, and then unfold it here at that double hinge, which it doesn't feel too unnatural going this way, but when you're going the other way, it's just like, oh yeah, you have to fold it up like that, which already feels like it's a little weird, and then you have to bring it out to the side like this, and then rotate that piece in just for all this stuff to move past each other. It's kind of an interesting little motion that seems a little counterintuitive at first, but not too bad. And then you can just bring the arm down just like that. So then just do that on both sides here. And then you want to take this part of the windshield and it'll kind of come back on this little armature. And then you open up this panel here, fold up the head, and then the panel that the head is on has a couple slots that these little tabs on this blue panel will just plug into just like that. And then you can bring this little section of the windshield just onto his back. And there you have Point Blank in his robot mode. Now, obviously you can take Peacemaker here and have him hold him in his hands. And I think that looks fairly good as a little display there. You can also, if you want, they do show this off. There's a hole in the back that you can fold up Peacemaker and just have him sit on the back there as storage, which is cool. I don't even necessarily need them to have storage when it's Target Masters, because I figure, you know, when he's not holding him as a gun, then Peacemaker can just be in robot mode doing his own thing. But it's nice that they gave you that option there. Now, the one big thing, this is not even the biggest issue I have with this figure, but just like a design decision that I'm not totally fond of, is I wish that they given him a head sculpt that is more like his G1 toy and is like sort of American head sculpt, because they kind of went the route of going more of like his design from the Headmasters anime, which is not typically how I tend to think of Point Blank looking, because he doesn't have the big sort of like, you know, like antenna on the side, so he's got more of like a rounded head. So I would have preferred they went with the other head, but as is, it's a nice looking head sculpt, so you know, I'll get used to it. But just like by default, that's not the head sculpt I would have expected him to have or wanted him to have. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint here, so it can rotate around, gets a little bit of wiggle, but not a ton. Now, the arms are probably the biggest problem I have with this guy in terms of the articulation, because well, his shoulders are okay. They swivel around just like that, and they can hinge out to the side like this and hinge out to the side like that, and that works just fine. He doesn't have a bicep swivel at all, which is kind of a bummer. He does have a below the elbow swivel, but if you actually have his elbow bent, you can't like really, you know, rotate it around at the bicep, which is a little annoying. And the other big issue is the elbows go like about 45 degrees, if that, which is kind of bad. I'm not overly fond of that. I wish that they had a little bit more range. But yeah, I mean, that's probably my biggest lasting complaint about this guy, is just how the arms don't really move all that well, unfortunately. But the rest of his articulation is okay. Like, he's got just a pretty standard waist cut here. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side, kind of over past a full split. This one hip specifically is kind of loose on mine, unfortunately, but it's not like floppy enough that he like falls over or anything. It just doesn't feel as good when you're actually, you know, moving him around. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got a pretty deep knee bend just because of how it folds up for transformation. And then the feet can tilt out to the side, and the toe can kind of tilt down if that's at all useful. So like I said, decent articulation other than specifically like the biceps and the elbows. So you know, if you're just having him standing there on a shelf, I think he looks fairly good. But if you're wanting to put him in like dynamic poses, then the arms are really very limiting. But you know, what can you do? In terms of size comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for that standard deluxe size comparison. So you can see he's actually a fairly tall deluxe. He's about a head or two above Sideswipe there. So that's nice. And then here he is again with Siege crosshairs, and I think they look fairly good together. Like I said, you know, it'd be nice to get a new crosshairs, and it would definitely be nice to get a new sure shot to go along with them. But for now, I think that's a fairly nice looking display. And then for Peacemaker specifically, I figured I'd also show him off with one of the Siege Battle Masters. Here he is with fire drive, so you can see a little shorter than them, and obviously a lot fewer joints there, but you know, they look fairly good together. But yeah, you know, honestly, not a ton else to say about this figure. He's a pretty average overall. I'd say he looks good. He's got a okay transformation, just has a few parts that are kind of annoying to move past each other. And really just the biggest thing is that his arms aren't very posable, but otherwise he's a pretty decent figure. Still, I'd say probably the least exciting of the wave for me, though in general, I feel like maybe his joints feel a little bit better aside from the one leg than some of the other figures in this wave, but the arms are really a pretty big limiting factor. So that's kind of been the trend with wave 3 of Legacy, is just like pretty good overall, just like each of them have one or two things that are kind of irritating, and he's no exception to that. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him, or them, I should say. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Without further ado, here we have Transformers Generations Legacy Point Blank with Peacemaker.